Did you ever think that you'll win?
Honestly, no.
How do you feel now?
It's like an impossible dream. You have to have courage.
Did you win?
I think I've never lost.
What was it like?
That's something that I felt I achieved.
How do you describe it?
Mismanaged.
What do you plan?
You are here to make a difference. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I want to get the message across. We're here for service.
How do you feel now?
They were suing people left and right. Did you know I was a fugitive for weekend money?
Hello, welcome to Padayon, a Cebu businessman podcast where we celebrate the brightest minds in the country. I'm your host, Bunny Paz. In this exciting episode, we get an opportunity to have an intimate conversation with the newly elected governor of the province of Cebu, who received an overwhelming 1.1 million votes, the Dragon Slayer of the South, the People's Governor-elect, Pam Baricuatro. Welcome to the show, Governor-elect Pam Baricuatro.
Thank
May I
you.
call you Pam?
Certainly, by all means. You've called me that before, so nothing's changed.
That's great. Okay, Pam, it's been over 30 days now since you got that overwhelming, miraculous election, defeating what some people thought would be an unbeatable foe. Over the last few days, you've been the center of attention, not only in Cebu, but nationally. You've appeared in the national television, interviewed by Karen Davila, Pinky Webb, and you've met the senators.
Yeah.
And you've met everybody who needs to be met. And I remember when you first were asked how you felt right after your election, you said overwhelmed. So let me ask you now, after that period has elapsed, how do you feel now?
It's like an impossible dream. You know that song, right? You just said unbeatable foe. So everything is like an impossible dream. It makes me happy when I see people celebrating my victory. But as far as I'm concerned, it's more like responsibility. So I don't really have the time to celebrate yet and be happy. I'm just taking it a day at a time.
Yeah, I could imagine you're taking over a province, one of the oldest in the whole country, with a population of 3.4 million people. In terms of municipalities, 44 municipalities with over 1,000 barangays, and a provincial board that's composed of 20 members, none of whom is affiliated with your party and your elections. So I'm sure the burden of responsibility is there. But let me ask you, you were born in Cebu City, but you grew up in Panimungahan, which is an hour and 30 minutes away. What is it in your childhood that you think has prepared you for this role today?
I come from a family of kind people and service-oriented. I come from a family of academics, teachers actually. As you've known, one of my relatives is Dr. Professor Nimenzo, the former president of UP, who just passed away last year. So I come from a family of academics, and they're just simple people also.
And your father was a retired policeman.
Yes, he's also a very simple people. So that's something that I've learned from my ancestors and my family.
Yeah, looking back at your father, what was the biggest lesson that you've learned from him? Being in service, servicing the community. He was a policeman, not an easy job. What was it that you learned the best from him?
Courage. Yeah. You see, as a policeman, and he was fighting criminals, drug lords and everything, hoodlums. So that's something I learned from him. You have to have courage. And that is also one quality of leadership that is forgotten.
Well, you took up political science at the University of San Carlos, and that's where you finished. And then later on, you took up law, which you did not finish because you were hired by Cathay Pacific and you worked in Hong Kong, based in Hong Kong, for 20 years. Why did you pick on political science as a course?
That's something that's I'm very interested at it. Ever since I was a kid, as you know, not many people know this, but I was a KB chairman. Oh. I ran for office at 16 years old when I was 16 years old.
Which part of the city was this?
Lorega, San Miguel.
Okay.
Because my father was assigned there as a policeman.
Did you win?
Yeah. I think I've never lost an election. That was the only one. So now is the second time. Yeah. Well, I was in school also in San Carlos. I ran for the student government.
So you've been attracted to service all these years.
Yes.
Why?
It has something to do with my grandparents, the way I was raised, because I see them always sharing and giving to people, even if they don't have much, but they always share. So, and I also went to school in Colegio de la Inmaculada Concepcion, and that's something that I've learned there. You know, the Vincentian spirit. It's about service, it's about giving, it's about sharing. So I think that's part of my life.
So you actually joined Cathay Pacific before you finished your law. Tell us about that, because, you know, being a flight attendant and a purser, which is supervising a group of attendants, is not an easy job. The orientation, the mindset, the attraction for service, and patience, these are things that are so important to being in that kind of job. Tell us, what was it like, and what has it prepared you for to this day?
You know, during the time, I don't know if you're aware of this, but during the time, it was the most coveted job in Cebu.
It was.
You know, thousands of girls apply for it, and only few are.
How old were you then when you got hired?
I was in my 20s, middle 20s. I think I was 26 when I joined Cathay Pacific.
Already a mother?
Yeah, I had a 5-year-old daughter.
Okay, so tell us, what was it like?
It was one part of my life. I was courageous because at the time all the single ladies wants a job. I had a daughter. I was a single mom. You know, that's something that I felt I achieved during that age, you know, among how many thousands of applicants I got accepted. So that's why I left my studies so I can work abroad. And I need to support my daughter also at the time. So.
And you stayed for 20 years.
Yeah, over 20 years.
What are the takeaways on that job?
It helped me a lot, Bunny. You know, first and foremost, it's not easy being a flight attendant because every year you have to take annual emergency exam. You have to jump the queue, you know, for evacuation. And we have to take examination. We have to be first aiders. So every year we have to qualify and get our license. But service-wise, it helped me a lot in dealing with people. So
all kinds, right?
Yes, it makes me flexible now. It's easy for me to get along and to talk to people, like small talks, because that's something I've been doing for the longest time. And I think the best takeaway is the service.
The orientation.
The orientation, the mindset.
Satisfaction of customers, right?
Exactly.
Is that something that you would be really talking about and doing a lot more in the province of Cebu?
Yeah, I think it's going to be my life in the next 3 years because I always look at leadership, a service, and responsibility. So that's why people were asking me, are you happy that now that you won? I said, I don't have time to be happy. I'm so engrossed on my responsibility right now and how I am going to prepare myself.
Okay, let me go back to my first question. Are you still overwhelmed because you're taking over the province, which is pretty challenging, I'm sure, to say the least? Many of us are running small companies and we get sometimes overwhelmed and we get pressured. So how do you feel today right now? Are you still overwhelmed or not anymore?
Not as much as when I first won, because now I've met people and I know there will be a lot of people helping me, not only here in Cebu, but national government also. So I know I get a lot of support, especially the people on the ground, the people who made me win. So I've seen their support and commitment to me. So it's better now than it was.
Okay, that's good. For sure, so many people want you to succeed because your success would be the success of the province of Cebu and your constituents. Let's talk about your first 100 days, Pam. You know, people always talk about this. I know you have been focusing on your pronouncements into 4 major areas: healthcare, transparency, government, livelihood, hunger, and also the housekeeping. You want to just eliminate those activities that are not really going to contribute to the benefit of the people. Let's talk about healthcare first. How do you describe the state of the healthcare in the province today in specific terms? I know there are 5 major hospitals here, and I think I heard you one time that you want to add more hospital during your term. So let's talk about the current state of healthcare and how do you describe it in specific terms?
In one word, Bunny, mismanaged.
In a few more words.
We have to prioritize it because we're talking about lives here. We need to save lives in the province of Cebu, which means that we have to put more doctors, we have to put more nurses, medical professionals, more facilities, medicines.
Pretty basic, right?
Yeah, basic, but that's something that was not prioritized, I guess, because look at the state of our healthcare now. And that's probably the reason why I was propelled to victory because of that. People see there was a gap in our healthcare system.
How challenging would that be to you?
It's doable because the budget's there. I have support from DOH now. I was in Manila yesterday and I talked to the undersecretaries. So now I feel good and I feel better that we, especially for the province of Cebu, that we get support.
Well, that's going to be a lot. Be there.
Like, we can make some hospitals, district hospital as a DOH-run institution. So we just need a legislation from the Congress and Senate. They will be the one to run it. So which means they put personnels there, they put medications there, facilities. So that makes life easier for the LGU.
Is that something that you want to do really straight on in the first 100 days?
Healthcare, that's something that we need to do. We're thinking of Karkar, making it into a DOH-run hospital. So I have to ask the Congresswoman Rhea to help me with the legislation. So we have to start it in the first 100 days. But as we promised, we allocate funds for each district hospitals, at least 10 million.
That's great. Well, 10 million isn't really that big when you have
initially
like 6 billion pesos right now in the province. You talked about doing some mobile clinics. How would that work?
It's already in the talks. I think we get 2 donations already for mobile clinics. So there are some parts of the province, but it's very hard to reach and people would have difficulty and had no means to go down. So yeah, that's something that would be going around and suri-suri in the province.
Well, you're so lucky, Pam, because your daughter, Nikki, is a doctor and her specialty is public health. So what would her involvement be in the province at this point in time?
Yeah, I have to engage her at no cost.
Definitely.
Yeah, because her specialty is, as you've mentioned, public health, and she's been trained in the best institutions like Hopkins School of Medicine and Mount Sinai School of Medicine. So she has the right background for it. She'll be advising our healthcare, and she'll be setting up the policies and processes.
So often, what's your thinking like?
That's something we can do. We can do a lot in the next 100 days and then the rest of my term.
Okay, I'm very interested in the livelihood and the development of enterprises in the province. You mentioned a few times in your interviews that you're not happy with the way the economy has been moving in Cebu. It hasn't really progressed and the per capita income is a bit low.
No, yeah.
Lower than what we should do. So do you have any specific plans right now in terms of the livelihood and bringing business into the municipalities, the outlying cities?
First and foremost, we have to get investment corridor back into the province. And how to do that is to be supportive of investments here and also make sure that there's ease of doing business in the province. Because I heard some of the corporations are postponing any major moves to advance their corporation, wait and see because what will happen in the past. So we have to make sure that they go back to the province of Cebu and to get their trust.
How do you plan to organize the business engagement sector? I know you've been talking with the Cebu Chamber of Commerce lately, and the chamber is very excited to work with you. And so is the city government. So how do you plan to organize this? Because you need maybe a group that will engage the businessmen and the people who are interested to invest in the province. How do you plan to organize this?
We have to start the provincial
investment board, maybe?
Board, yes. Because it was not done the past years. No, I don't know why they didn't do that one. So now we have to establish that.
Right. And set the tone and set the direction.
Yeah. And
deal with these people who are coming in and interested, right?
Yeah. And I'm lucky because I have Secretary Ace Dorano will be helping me.
Well, he's all experienced in not only tourism, but also in business.
Yes, because after all, it's interconnected, right?
How did you get Ace, by the way?
We're neighbors. And if you remember that the Doranos are my #1 supporters.
Definitely. I think you only had one mayor supporting you.
Yeah, that's Mayor Nito.
Nito Dorano,
Mayor
right?
Nito, yeah. So I think Ace was forced. I'm just joking. No, he's been very kind and very nice to us.
I think you also got Paulo Uwe, who's an expert on IT.
Yeah, he's a part of
the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I think you really need IT, AI, and the large language grid right now moving into the whole province.
I think AI will play a major role.
So it's so exciting. So we've got healthcare, which you are going to focus on, the livelihood, and then third would be like housekeeping. Oh, is that going to be an overwhelming responsibility and a task? How do you see that right now, considering the circumstances surrounding your taking over the province?
I believe there's just, I think, 5 departments I really have to organize. And that's planning. That's very important for the budget, treasury, accounting, budget. So those key departments I really have to look into.
And what are the other 4?
No, that's it.
5 departments.
5, yeah. I think it's budget, accounting, treasury,
and
planning, yeah.
And of course, you need that investment board.
The investment
to execute the plans, right?
Yes.
I think it's so important, like being in business, somebody will attend and you get the customer service orientation.
Yeah, you have to keep the customers satisfied and happy, right? And the stakeholders.
You also talked about fiscal management.
Yeah.
It's something that you want to pursue, something you want to dig deeper into. And in fact, one of the things that I think excited a lot of people is that trying to save money by channeling money that probably were not really put properly. Like
correct.
Suri-suroy, Pasigarbo sa Cebu, which cost 250 million pesos. So what do you plan in terms of the fiscal management here, Pam?
There has to be strategic planning, and of course, revenue generation is also very important. And of course, we have first, I think the best thing that you can do here is you have to create the culture of integrity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important.
To be able to be transparent also with the stakeholders.
Okay, the first 100 days, what's the first thing that you plan to do the first week?
We have to do some gap analysis also, see where the gap is. Yeah, and of course, the priority projects that's close to my heart, which is healthcare. Yeah, we have to look into food security as well. Yeah, and putting the right people there.
Yeah, I guess it's so Jim Collins, putting the right people on board, the wrong people off the bus.
They make or break you, right? Yeah, so I have to be very strategic in putting the right people in place. They have to have loyalty, of course, to me. And I told them on the group na, if you want to be appointed, don't make money. If you want to make money, don't get appointed, because this is not a place to make money, because we're here for service. So I already briefed them about it.
And I guess you're also used to the hard work.
Yeah.
That you've been being a flight attendant, being a purser. It's not easy work.
That's how I manage my campaign. That's how I survive the campaign, It's quite tough, I've been through, you wouldn't believe this, Bunny, but I've crossed a river with a very dirty canal with only 3 bamboos. I have to step on it all the way. And the only handle I have was somebody holding the other end of the bamboo and the other one's holding the other end. So I have to cross that.
I could visualize that.
Yeah, and
Are you going to do that? Are you going to do that when you're governor again? Go back to that stream? Or
why not? Actually, I told them that every Wednesday we have to have a People's Day. That's the time when you see people to visit you. And maybe the end of the week, Friday, I go back to my campaign schedule, because really I missed it. I missed going to the province, and talking.
Since you declared your candidacy last October 8th, I'm sure you were super busy. Are you busier now? Now that you are governor-elect and will be busier being governor? What do you think?
I'm sure it will be busier. I don't know if I would still have time to sleep. but lucky for me.
You have to take good care of yourself, right?
6 hours is good for me already. So, but I promised them that we keep office hours. I don't want to work beyond 5:30.
Right. You've got to stay fresh.
Yeah, and we have families also to go home to.
Correct.
Yeah, so I don't want to be working at the wee hours of the morning,
So you're going to be called and known as the people's governor. So how do you see this panning out over the next few months, the next few years, being a people's governor?
I coined that word during the proclamation, because someone asked
Only during the proclamation?
During the proclamation.
The moment you won?
Yeah, it just came out because I realized that it's the people who made me win. It's the people who placed me there.
It's just overwhelming, clamor for change. Need a new face.
Timing is everything, right?
When did you know that you were going to win?
Honestly, mga Friday, 3 days before the...
Yeah, elections Monday, right?
Yeah.
So Friday, you knew that you were winning or you were going to win?
Yeah, I know I was going to win.
How?
Different feel already, and my social media engagement just went up. I was told by my IT team that it just went up.
Was that so different from the first few weeks in the campaign?
Yes.
What was it like? I know this is gone. We're moving into a new direction and moving forward, but I think it's important that we talk a little bit about history. So what was it like in the first few weeks, in the first few months of the campaign?
It was challenging. I have a very small team, as you know, like there's probably 6 of us, including my daughter. And Brian is our consultant, so 7th one, yeah. I have to go out, like I started, that was memorable for me, the Misa di Gallo. I went around for 9 days all over
Where
the
did
province.
you go?
I started in my hometown in Pinamungahay. I went Toledo. I went Barili. I went Boal. Where else
So
did I
they
go?
even know you there? Who's
No, I have
who's
to.
this person?
They don't know me. I have to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Pam. I'm running for governor. I went around and introduced myself.
So what happened was you just saw the development and the gradual change.
The gradual change.
How gradual was it? Was it like gradual, or was it like there was a point when it just sort of tilted?
It was very gradual. And then it really peaked when during the impeachment.
Oh, yeah.
When they started, that's when they started to notice me. And then PRD was...
So you noticed that shift? Why?
Yeah.
Why did it happen, you think? Did you just pick on the right horse to ride on?
It was what's in my heart.
I know.
It was,
but you picked on right,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
you could have picked on the other side.
Yeah, I see your point.
So you think it was a big factor that you went with Duterte's in a way?
Yeah, I've always been a Duterte
Right.
supporter.
It's the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's divine intervention or something like that. Because
So the big shift, the big tilting point was when Sarah was with the impeachment. Started there, and of course when former President Duterte was sent to The Hague. Did you notice it quickly, the overwhelming difference?
Yes, because that time when it happened, when he was taken to The Hague, we were having a meeting for a solidarity mass for Sarah.
Yeah.
It was, I think, I went to Hague on Wednesday, so we were planning a meeting for the Saturday's mass, and then all of a sudden, every one of us, we went to... So I cannot take it anymore. We were meeting. I cannot concentrate. I was so bothered with what happened. So we went to Plaza Independencia and hold a prayer rally there.
Were there a lot of people or quite few?
Not so many, just a few people.
No, what did you pray about?
We just prayed the rosary and hope that he'll be safe. He'll be brought back to us. So we were just there. We were just lighting candles. We were crying, actually. Actually, I was really in tears because during that time, we already found out 7 p.m. and it was taken out already. So, and we were in the middle of our prayers, so everybody was crying and meat just started to arrive. So we're starting to get attention, but it was not intentional. I never intended to ride on what was going on. It was just out of my heart that I went there and said, this cannot be,
Maybe this is what you call faith, right? So from there on, what happened? Did you notice a big shift already in terms of your acceptance, your being known?
Started to notice me, and then the brother of my opponent started to attack me in social media. So people were listening to him and said, who could this girl? She's attacking, So they went to my Facebook.
Make you become more popular.
So that's what people are telling me.
Yeah.
So they went to my FB page and they said, oh, maybe she's not bad. Oh, she's a Duterte supporter, and then something's happened to Duterte now. So that's how I got the attention of the majority.
But prior to that, Pam, did you ever think that you'll win?
Honestly, no.
So why did you run?
It was just, I want to get the message across. That was the goal. I said, winning will be a bonus. I just want to get the message across that we're having problems with our healthcare system here in Cebu.
So Rowena Burden has been mentioned a lot about you. I know Rowena, we're good friends too. So I'm sure you always said that a big influence in your life and why you ran was because of her. Tell us about her a little bit more.
She's like a big sister to me. She's always been my defender because it was me who started the 2023 Bardugalan. Yeah, because I was telling the outgoing governor that why are you focusing on the Sigarbo when our poverty incidence is so high in the province of Cebu.
And
so the brother called me a word that's not nice, pam. So Rowena defended, he did. So Rowena defended me, and then he called her again the B word. So that started.
That's how you became famous.
I have to thank him for that. So, and then we got sued, that Rowena was imprisoned, and honestly, when she passed away, I was still hurting very much, when you lose a friend. And I was, again, do you know I was a fugitive for weekend money?
No. Where did you
I
know?
was issued a warrant of arrest for cyber libel. It was a case filed by the brother.
How did it feel to be a fugitive?
And I never expected to happen in my life, because I've always been a law-abiding citizen, working abroad or FW, raising my child. And then here I am, I've been fingerprinted and wearing the orange shirt. I'll show you the photo later. So I went through that, because it was a Friday afternoon. The warrant of arrest came. I'm out, so I have to rush to the, Ituburan because the court was in Toledo.
Did that experience change you a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
In what way?
It gave me more courage to stand up for what is right. I mean, the service is there. I've been serving the community, but I don't think I would even think of running because I have a comfortable life. I don't need to be.
For sure.
I don't need to be governor. I don't need a spotlight, really. But because of that, I stood up for my friend. I stood up for my principal. That this cannot. She was a cardiologist. We are both social activists. I've been contributing to the province, helping the hunger situation in the province, by creating my food bank. And yet I was treated like that. Can you imagine how they would treat those people in the grounds? They were suing people left and right. And that was the bottom line, this is it, I have to stand up for the people. Yeah.
I can feel that. I can feel that.
Yeah.
Why did you start the Simply Share Foundation? I know you started this 10 years ago, and your advocacy had always been to, you said like a first food bank in the Visayas.
So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it. What was the motivation there?
I've always liked to feed people. That's my love language.
Your daughter said you're a very good
All
cook.
my staff are laughing. They know that. Yeah. I love to cook. So I was feeding people. So even when I was working in a cafe, when I come home on weekends, I go to those places in Cathedral and feed those in the sidewalks.
Amazing.
I've been doing that. So Brian said, okay, I'll give you money, start your foundation, make it, institutionalize it and do something. And when I did research, I said, how come we don't have food bank here in Cebu? Because
how do we find a food bank?
Food bank is a proven solution in addressing hunger. You collect surplus food and you give it to the need. Even in the US, there's a lot of there. Even Singapore and Hong Kong, they're developed countries, and yet so many food banks. So
now that you're governor, are you gonna institutionalize this concept?
Yes, we have to. I will have to go to the board and then tell them if we can do it. Make a food bank, one in the north, one in the south. So we have a warehouse food in case there's crisis. I'm lucky because I had a global food banking network who helped me start my food bank.
What's the name of this global food network?
It's a network of food banks all over the
world.
The world, yeah. So they help you, they guide you in food safety, in how to collect food and how to handle food. So we have 2 in the Philippines, 1 in Manila, and the only one in the Visayas is my food bank, the Cebu Food Bank.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Those of us on the outside would say, okay, Pamela's facing maybe her most difficult challenges, one of the most difficult challenges in your life. So you're ready.
Yeah, I take it a day at a time. This on Harvard, in the first day of school, sa Harvard Kennedy School of Government, they give you this red notebook and it says there, you are here to make a difference. So that really drives me. And there's also this quote that they keep inculcating in us, and it says, I'm sure you're familiar with this one.
What is it?
Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
John F. Kennedy.
Yes. Yeah.
We can end this by you delivering a message to the Cebuanos. What would that be, Pam?
Daghan kayo salamat mga Cebuanon sa inyong suporta diri kanako, and ako ginang giseryoso ang inyong paghatag og mandato diri kanako. And ako ang paningkamuton na in the next 3 years ako mong masilbihan sa inyong gideserve the kind of leadership and service. Daghan kay salamat sa inyong mandato gihatag diri kanako.
Oh, I feel that, and I'm sure our constituents feel that too. So here you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our newly elected governor, Governor Pam Baricuatro. This is Bunny Pajes, your host. Goodbye.